fine to take risks. You need to take risks in life in order to move forward, make progress, and have adventures. All of that is like calculated, measured risk. But dumb risk is just dumb. Don't put your life on the line for a few seconds of enjoyment, a few seconds of thrill. Hey, good morning, how are ya? This is the morning walk. Today we're at Home Valley Station, right on the eastern end of the Kimberleys, pretty much where the Gibb River Road meets the Blacktop. It's a beautiful part of the country and you've definitely made a good choice by coming out here for a look around and having a yarn. Let's go take a look around because there's something pretty incredible about Home Valley Station. I'm going to talk about that and about some other things that are going on out here. Let's go for a walk. It's kind of cool just to be here at Home Valley Station because we weren't expecting to get here at all. It's on traditional lands and there was a process that took place earlier this year to hand over the lease from one organiser to the traditional owners. And pretty much it was looking very unlikely that Home Valley was even going to open at all. And when it comes to the Gibb River Road, this isolated, rugged, beautiful part of Australia, this is one of the places that you wanted to come and stop at. Fortunately though, about 2-3 weeks ago, I got an email from them that said, oh hey, we finally managed to get things sorted and we're going to be opening. And so we dropped a couple of days off our stay at El Questro and managed to get up here to Home Valley. And today's kind of special day actually, because after 7 months of travelling through this extraordinary countryside in Western Australia, we're leaving Western Australia. We're heading back to the Northern Territory, which I must admit I'm very excited about. The Northern Territory is just a remarkable part of Australia. But we've spent a lot of time here and Western Australia, I must say, is now my favourite state in the entire country. It's just full of the most beautiful places. There's something in this hard-baked ground that grabs your heart and pins you down, as Tom Curtin famously sings. This beautiful countryside. And we're leaving. Anyway, let me tell you a bit about the story that's been going on over the last few days. We're at a place called El Questro, which sounds like something out of the Wild West of America. And in fact, it's also a cattle station, old cattle station that was established back in the 1950s. In fact, long before that, back in the 1800s. And now it's been turned into this beautiful, lush oasis in the middle of the Kimberleys, where there's great camping, incredible gorges. The El Questro Gorge is literally the most beautiful walk that I've done anywhere in Australia. We're at a place called Zebedee Springs, which is a thermal spring. Water comes out of the ground. It's so busy there that they have to lock the gate overnight and it's only open from 7 a.m. until midday. And at 7 a.m. when you get to Zebedee Springs, there's actually a queue of people. There's a queue of cars waiting to get in. So it's one of those hot spots that you kind of have to get in to see. We managed to get ourselves into Zebedee and we were having a bit of a dip. And then this bloke, I'm going to call him Ross, because that's his name, slipped and opened up his head, like massive gash on his head, started bleeding everywhere on this sharp rock in these thermal springs in the middle of nowhere. Like literally, it was a pretty scary situation because you don't know what's going to happen to somebody when they're starting to lose a fair bit of blood in a really remote location. Now, unfortunately, somebody thought really quickly and they grabbed a towel and they got it on his head. And I think I can admit this now, but I was a little bit excited because for 20 years, I was part of a search and rescue squad. And never in 20 years into a search and rescue squad did I have to get my first aid kit out for more than a blister. And he was a good one that we needed to patch him up. So I literally got some big pads, got him on his head, bound him all up, and got Ross off to hospital in order to get his head stitched. 20 stitches, including 6 internal stitches. So it was a pretty big deal. No, the next day when we were doing El Questro Gorge, it's a really hard walk. And the sun goes down pretty quickly in this part of Australia. literally by about 5 p.m. the sun's going down. And what that means is that when you're in one of those deep gorges, you can think you've got heaps of time to get out, and suddenly it's dark, pitch black. We'd walked all the way up this amazing gorge and had to turn around to come back after we'd gotten to the end. And people with young families were still on their way into the gorge, and they're only about halfway up. And we're like, oh, you're not really going to have enough time to get out of here, you know, if you want to go all the way to the end. They're like, no, it'll be sweet, mate. Yep, should be right. Thanks for your advice. And so right around sunset, I was thinking to myself, a little bit worried about that family with the 3 young kids that was only halfway into the gorge. If they didn't turn around, they were likely to get benighted out there. And so I packed up my backpack, jumped in the Land Cruiser, over the creek crossings, and went back to try and make sure that they were okay. And literally as I got to the main creek crossing, it's dark by this stage, pitch black dark. They were actually driving out, so they had just made it out to their car in time. It just shows, like, people take unnecessary risks. You really have to be prepared. And in these, what seem like, you know, domesticated environments, because there's a sign in the ground or there are a few markers on a post which point the direction of the trail, people think that it's pretty much okay to not be prepared. And I subsequently heard that this had happened to other families as well. It happens quite often out at El Cuestro Gorge. People underestimate how long it's going to take them to get back, and they end up having to go out in the dark. So anyway, I got to do my good deeds for the week, for the month, for the year, by patching a guy's head up and going in to try and rescue a family that was stuck in a gorge in the dark. All part of the adventure. You really must always be prepared. In El Cuestro, we saw people, you know, walking in their thongs, just in board shorts, no shirts. It's a remote location. You're literally like an hour and a half hike out of a gorge, and then hour and a half drive to hospital. If you slip and sprain your ankle, your day is over. Your week is over. Your life could be over from the hypothermia. It's one of those things, you know, when you stand on top of a cliff and you're going to go and do a cliff jump, you know, a jump into deep water. Have you checked the depth of the water? Have you checked for branches? When you're about to get in a car and drive with somebody after you've all been at the pub, have they been drinking too? Is it going to be safe? Are you going to be able to put on a seatbelt because you're putting too many people in the car? These are things that just need to be automatic for you. Never take a risk that could end your life. You only get one of these. And look at this, like, this world of ours is precious. Our lives are precious. It's fine to take risks. You need to take risks in life in order to move forward, make progress, and have adventures. All of that is like calculated, measured risk. But dumb risk is just dumb. Don't put your life on the line for a few seconds of enjoyment, a few seconds of thrill. Literally for 20 years, more, 25 years, every time I've gone out in the bush or gone to remote locations, I've been prepared. Carried my first aid kit, my personal location beacon. Now I'm carrying a sat phone as well, just in order to make sure that if something goes wrong, you can get yourself out alive. And for one time in 25 years, I've actually needed to use that thing, for real. But, you know, did that save a life? Potentially. Does that mean it was worth it? You know, me carrying that kit all those years, keeping it up to date, keeping it prepared, carrying the weight. Yeah, it was worth it. Absolutely.